There are a lot of people today who are making fun of Alan Dershowitz. So Alan Dershowitz, I had Dersh when I was at Harvard Law School, and Dersh is a Democrat, right? He's been a lifelong Democrat. He voted for Barack Obama, I believe, twice. And now he has been somewhat friendly to President Trump's sort of legal strategy. And he's written a piece about why it is that so many people on the left are now sort of excising him from their lives. So here's what he writes, and he's getting made fun of for this. He writes, Congresswoman Maxine Waters recently told her supporters to hound President Trump's cabinet members wherever they find them. They're not going to be able to go to a restaurant. They're not going to be able to stop at a gas station. They're not going to be able to shop at a department store. The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them. Waters does not speak for all Democrats or liberals, nor do those who threw Sarah Huckabee Sanders out of a Red Hen restaurant. Neither do those who have harassed other members of the Trump administration. But these rude extremists are a symptom of the times. The divisions have gotten so bad that many on both sides refuse to speak or listen to people on the other side. Either you're for Trump or against him, and that is all some people need to know to make judgments about you. Now, obviously, I think that logic has permeated every side, right? You're either for Trump or you're against him. Dershowitz is right about that. And then he gets into his personal experience, and this is where he's getting mocked. He says, I know this because I have experienced this firsthand on Martha's Vineyard. I am not a Trump supporter, nor am I a member of the Trump administration. I have strongly and publicly opposed his immigration policies, ranging from the travel ban that was upheld by the Supreme Court to the zero tolerance policy that led to the separation of parents and children at the border. I oppose other Republican policies as well. I voted for and contributed handsomely to Hillary Clinton. But I have defended Trump's civil liberties along with those of all Americans, just as I would have defended Hillary Clinton's civil liberties had she been elected and subjected to efforts of impeachment or prosecution. And then he says, I'm a liberal Democrat in politics, but a neutral civic libertarian when it comes to the Constitution. But that is not good enough for some of my old friends on Martha's Vineyard, says Alan Dershowitz. For them, it is enough that what I have said about the Constitution might help Trump. So they are shunning me and trying to ban me from their social life on Martha's Vineyard. One of them, an academic at a distinguished university, has told people he would not attend any dinner or party to which I was invited. He and others have demanded trigger warnings so they can be assured of having safe spaces in which they will not encounter me or my ideas. Others have said they will discontinue contributions to organizations that sponsor my talks. I wonder if the professor who refuses to listen to anything I have to say also treats his students similarly. Would he listen to a student who actively supported Trump? What about one who simply supported his civil liberties? Okay, so people are making fun of him because Martha's Vineyard is very wealthy, and if Dershowitz is getting shunned on Martha's Vineyard, play the world's smallest violin is sort of how the logic goes. But I'd like to point out the counter logic of the left. So the left itself has said that it is a refusal of human dignity. It is a refusal of human dignity for me and my synagogue not to perform your same-sex wedding. Right? It is a violation of your personal dignity for me personally not to approve of your behavior in any way, not just with regard to sex, with regard to anything. For me to withhold my approval of you is a denial of your self-esteem, and it's an imposition on your life. And then the same people will mock Alan Dershowitz for saying, listen, I used to be able to invite to all these dinner parties. I said that Trump has civil rights, and now I'm not invited to any of the dinner parties. The point that Dershowitz is making is not that he's seeing some sort of brutal government crackdown. The point that he's making, and I think it's well taken, is that intolerance in our nation has reached a supreme extreme where nobody is even listening to one another anymore. They would prefer for these utopian schemes to play out one way or the other. So this is particularly true on the left, where they believe that Donald Trump is going to be removed from office through a deus ex machina. There's going to be something that happens. The ghost outside, there will be a God outside the machine who will intervene, stick his hand in, and Trump will no longer be president. And if you don't believe that, well, you don't belong in our religious clique. And he's not wrong about that, Dershowitz, when he says this. When Dershowitz says that he's being excised, the only thing that he's wrong about is that this is something new. This isn't new at all. This was happening during the Bush administration. Every Republican that I know, when they go to a Thanksgiving dinner, is shunned by their Democratic relatives. I know very few Republicans who've actually shunned their Democratic relatives when they come over for dinner. There's a reason that conservatives avoid bringing up politics when they are in the context of their family events, whereas Democrats have no problem doing it whatsoever. People on the left are constantly bringing up politics at family dinners because they understand that conservatives tend to be more tolerant. Polls show this, by the way, that conservatives tend to interact more with people on the left than people on the left tend to interact with conservatives. But the mockery of Alan Dershowitz that, he's rich, and, he's Jewish, and, he teaches at Harvard Law, therefore, why is he complaining about how people treat him? This is coming from the same people who whine nonstop about how they are treated by people to whom they have no right to affection. Right? It's mind-bogglingly hypocritical, but perfectly within line with how the left thinks, which is that they have all these rights from you, but you have no rights from them. The answer is none of us have a right to love from anybody, right? None of us have that. But we all do have, I think, an obligation to civility, and that is going by the wayside in pretty obvious fashion. So the extremism of the left is on full display. The reason they feel fully justified in treating people badly is because they feel that you are an inferior human being. And again, I don't think there's anything new. I think that that Alan Dershowitz has just been mugged by reality when he complains about this stuff. I don't think that anything has changed. I really don't think anything has changed. I'll take for an example Joss Whedon. So Joss Whedon has been a nut for a long time. And now Joss Whedon tweets out this today. Hey, far right, gonna beat you. Not gonna start a war. Not gonna shoot you, run you over, threaten your kids. Gonna beat you with passionate compassion, with journalism, activism, the law, with votes. Your rage is fear. Our rage is love. Our state is united. Happy 4th. It's a second to last line that really is telling. Like, I'm glad that he's not going to start a war. By the way, if people on the left tried to start a war with people on the right, they should think about who has all the guns in the country right now. But that second to last line there, our rage is love. Your rage is fear. Our rage is love. No, your rage is not love. Your rage is rage. Your rage is rage. And I think that we live in an era of politics where anger is seen as authenticity. That if you're not rageful, if you're not screaming at the moon, if you're not baying like a hound at people, then that means that you're not passionate enough. We can automatically throw out your opinion. It means you're not authentic. The most authentic politicians are the ones who yell and scream at people. Those are the ones that we really should follow all the way down the primrose path. Those are the people we ought to engage with. The left believes this. Right? The left believes that they did not fight hard enough against President Trump, that Hillary Clinton was too civil to President Trump, and that's why they need to go yell at people in restaurants. That's why they need to attack people at gas stations. That's why they need to mob people. Because if they do that, then maybe these Republicans will be taught their lesson. That's not how any of this works. You want to convince people not to vote for President Trump who voted for him last time? You're going to need to stop calling them racist. You're going to need to stop threatening their families. You're going to need to stop with the our rage is love routine. Your rage is not love. Your rage is clearly fear. Your rage is obviously fear. This is not righteous indignation. This is just anger. It's just puerile anger directed at the president and directed at the president's supporters. And the reason you can tell this is because of the disproportionate response to everything Trump does. If they were just angry when Trump does something wrong, then maybe I'd get it, right? If they just got angry over Charlottesville, then I'd say, okay, but that's not the deal. Every time Trump does anything, they lose their minds. Anytime he performs any constitutional function, they suggest that it's legitimately the end of the world. What we're watching right now is a breakdown in real time. We're watching the apocalyptic politics that are going to end the country. And I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why anybody would look at America right now and think that we're living in an apocalypse. We're legitimately living in heaven. If you were born if you were transported from 1920, you're Rip Van Winkle, go to sleep in, let's say, not even 1920, let's pick 1917. It's the middle of World War I, okay? And a year away is the influenza epidemic that's going to kill legitimately hundreds of thousands of people across the world. And you're living in 1917, 1918, and you go to sleep. We fast forward 100 years, and you wake up, and it's 2018. You would think you had died and gone to heaven. You would. You would think you were dead and you'd gone to heaven. That you died in the influenza epidemic and now you're in heaven. That's how good things are right now. Okay, the fact that not for everybody, obviously there's suffering. Obviously there are people having a tough time. But the average citizen of the United States has a car, a microwave, central air conditioning, a piece of hardware that they carry around in their hand that has more computing power than NASA had when they sent somebody to the moon. Okay, and you're walking around with instant access to information and entertainment. You don't have to go to a movie theater anymore and drop money at a movie theater. Instead, you've got this information that's available to you at every moment of the day. Right? You can FaceTime with your kids when you're 3,000 miles away. And not just that. The levels of violence in American society are at record lows. They're not at record highs. Okay, we had a murder epidemic that took place basically from 1960 to 1994, and it started dropping then, and it's continued to drop. Okay, you can live in your neighborhood, depending on your neighborhood, most neighborhoods in the United States, you go to sleep at night, and you're not deeply worried that somebody's going to break in your house and murder you, or that your house is going to get burned down, or there's going to be a riot outside. Okay, think about the progression in New York City alone. New York City was one of the most violent places in America. New York City is now one of the safest places in America. America has made heaven a reality, at least insofar as anyone in the past would have thought, and we are looking at it and we are seeing a hell. And maybe that's because we've got the wrong frame of mind. That's because we're not comparing ourselves to the past. We're not even comparing ourselves to what we could be. We are comparing ourselves to utopia that doesn't exist, but only exists in your mind. And we are comparing ourselves to a political system that has never been tried, that has never been really attempted without leaving a lot of people dead. And we're comparing ourselves to this phantom that doesn't exist in reality. And then we're declaring that we have come up short. That's the only way I can explain this anger, because anger, it seems to me, is coming out of frustration. And the only reason that Democrats would be frustrated in a world where same-sex marriage is legal, abortion on demand is legal, and they've got everything they want in terms of state intervention in a social safety net, basically. they're looking around, they're saying, this is hell? This is hell? Maybe it's just that they were so used to being on top for so long that when the American people said, hold up a sec, let's throw the brakes on and let's appreciate what's happened in the United States, and maybe let's think about whether we've gone too far in some areas, that they were so panicked about that they saw Utopia as something lost. And now they're frustrated and angry. Whatever it is, it's delusional. And that delusion is leading to a psychic break among a lot of hardcore Democrats that is going to lead the country in worse and worse directions.